Hello, the AFC and NFC championship games have come and gone. And folks, we have our Super Bowl matchup. As I said last week, I expected it to be the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. And hey, what do you know? Mitchell's right. Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles get the win. Brandon 2, Tommy Grant, I'm Mitchell Lee. Guys, let's start things off. And folks, this is going to be kind of a shorter podcast today, right? This is going to be a little bit, not quite to the extent of, for those 0 of you who have been listening to Brandon and I for quite some time, this isn't quite going to be a football bite, but it is going to be a short form version. Of course, I could say that, and then Brandon and I start talking about how Saquon, how the Eagles leaned on Saquon for 45 minutes.
Talk about inside zone and outside zone.
But we'll start with the NFC Championship game. Philadelphia Eagles hanging 55 on the Washington Commanders, 55-23. Look, I've been fighting the good fight as far as Jaden Daniels. I think that the greatest rookie season, or the greatest rookie quarterback season in the history of the National Football League just wrapped up, and I thought he played really well in that game against the Eagles. However, it felt like the entire team was not quite ready for that moment. And so I think that it gives the Commanders front office a lot of insight as to like what we need to improve on. And that answer is a lot. Jaden Daniels was the leading rusher for the Commanders in 2 out of their 3 playoff games. And neither of those games did Daniels go over 50 yards. So the rushing was not spectacular. Receivers that are not named Terry McLaurin, definitely something that would need to be improved on. Diami Brown definitely did some good things in the postseason, but I think you would prefer to have him as an auxiliary piece. And plus, I think his contract's running up. Anyway, the defense, particularly in the secondary, you have a lot of young pieces that I think you can hold on to. I mean, Mike Sainristil, good rookie corner, really like him. You added Marshawn Lattimore, and the defensive line is where I think the Commanders can really get a lot better in the offseason. Brandon, before we talk about the Eagles, just your takeaway from Washington this postseason, and more particularly today. Or not today, but in the NFC title game.
Yeah, this weekend. No, I mean, I think overall, like, solid season, very good season, especially from where they're coming from, to just basically turn it around in a year. Make the
14
NFC
wins.
title game. Yeah, 14 wins. I will say some of the wins felt like not cheap or anything, but like, you got to win games. But like the Hail Mary against Chicago, like there's a lot of different scenarios where this team isn't winning 14 games. But credit to them for winning that many. And I will say,
Jalen
I
Hurts
think,
got hurt in their second game against the Eagles.
yeah,
They had a
exactly.
comeback against Dallas. They had a comeback against Atlanta. But I
There's
think
a lot of different wins that are kind of.
that I think had to do with the fact of Jaden Daniels is just so, with the exception of that Dallas game, Jaden Daniels is just so good in those late game situations. He
Mhm.
doesn't get rattled, and he can handle situations like that extremely well.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway is you found your QB of the future, and you found arguably. I mean, we've been arguing for 2 weeks now. A top 5 QB in the league.
Nothing I saw
And
on Sunday makes me change my
those.
mind as far as that goes,
Oh yeah,
by
I
the
don't
way.
think anything changes either for that. I will
I think
say,
Daniels was the better quarterback on the field in that game, but
yeah,
Hurts had and Hurts didn't play badly at all. We'll get to the Eagles, but the Eagles as a team were just much more well
yep,
constructed and definitely built for this moment, whereas Washington kind of came into the playoffs with house money. No one
yeah.
expected them to get this far.
They really didn't, and that's the whole point. Is like Jaden Daniels showed that he was really, really good, and you have some pieces to work around. And now you go make your team better. You go make the defensive line better. Tommy, I just think like there's not many QVs out there that are as good as Jaden Daniels, and I think that's like the main takeaway from this Commander
I mean,
season.
given the fact that this is his rookie season and he did this well, and even in this game, as much as I'd like to give Mitchell shit just to piss him off, he did very well. I mean, he performed pretty much on par with Jalen Hurts in terms of passing yards and completions. what really hurt them was just those couple fumbles that they lost, the interception, and just the fact that the line could not protect him, and even the defense just completely crumbled after. I don't even think they were there.
What did they do, Brandon?
Well, I mean, they definitely got leaned on. Is what happened. I mean,
They
it
got
was
leaned on
bad.
and they couldn't lean back.
It was bad. I will say, Mitchell. I mean, good call with Cosme being out. Like that. That is huge. And then as soon as I believe someone else went out on their offensive line too, and it was like, okay, this game might be a wrap. Like this game is, yeah. It's just gonna be hard.
It was
I do
kind of
like
like,
Wiley. I do like those guys, but like you got to move players around. It's just not a
Yeah.
good situation.
yeah, at a point it kind of became like watching, and unfortunately it happened during another Eagles game this postseason when they played the Packers, and it's like, okay, we're down to wide receiver 5, guys on the defense are getting hurt, guys on the offensive line are getting hurt, not to that extent,
We're on like
but
our
like,
third offensive tackle or like fourth offensive tackle. Yeah.
and you know what that tells me? The Eagles play an extremely physical brand of football
Yeah.
that a lot of teams just aren't either prepared to play or equipped to play. And they ran the ball 36 times, 229 yards, 7 touchdowns. And a lot of people will look at the 7 touchdowns on the ground, 1 touchdown through the air, and say, well, Jalen Hurts isn't getting it done. He's not. And,
Yeah.
and what I see is not that Jalen Hurts isn't getting it done. But to me, it's that this run game knows how to put 7 on the board as opposed to 3. They
Mhm.
don't settle for field goals when they get in the red zone, whether it's the tush push with Jalen Hurts, whether it's Saquon Barkley. Jalen Hurts, they
QB
have
draws. I mean, yeah,
exactly.
they have a bunch
They
of
have
options.
all sorts of options to score in the red zone, and they come away with touchdowns as opposed to field goals, as evidenced by the fact that Jake Elliott didn't make a single field goal. Granted, they tried, but he missed. But he kicked 7 extra points. This is a
Right.
team that knows how to finish drives the way that everyone wants to finish them, with a touchdown.
Yeah, I think Jeff Saturday brought this up. I was listening to him, and he was like, people want to like diminish what the Eagles do or like Jalen Hurts because they don't play like this sexy brand of football. They don't throw the ball around the field, spread it out, get guys into space, try to get guys open. It's very much like we know AJ Brown can win one on one. We know Devontae Smith can win one on one, and then we're running the ball with Saquon down your throat, and we're basically forcing you to stop that, and then we're going to force you to stop Jalen Hurts. And if you can't, you can't do all of that at once. And Mitchell, I think you said it best. It's a physical brand of football. It is different. It is smash mouth. It is basically lining up in an I form Maryland eye or wishbone and running the ball. They're just doing a shotgun with inside zone, outside zone. Like they're using the same formula. They're just hoping that they can wear you down over the course of a game and just continue to,
And it's
grind it
very easy
grind
to
it
wear
out,
them down
basically.
because
Yeah.
once Saquon gets running, it's so hard to stop him.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
like you could put anybody on him, but it's just once he gets going and he gets a little bit of speed under those legs,
I mean,
you're not
really, the
stopping
only other person who's more physical than him in the run game in the NFL is Derrick Henry. Like,
Yeah.
if I had to pick two guys where it's like safety's coming down in the box to meet a guy in the hole, I don't want to tackle Saquon Barkley, and I definitely don't want to tackle Derrick Henry. So like that's I mean, when you have that type of run game behind you, I mean Nick Sirianni is completely fine with being like, yeah, we're gonna hand the ball off 36 times and we're gonna like smash mouth this game to death. Like, and like I will say this. I think the holdup with Jalen Hurts is there's certain times where like there's a bigger play down the field and he like doesn't quite like go to throw it or he doesn't quite see it fast enough. And so he doesn't take like the big shot down the field when he has an opportunity. Now I will say this, Nick Sirianni and that offensive staff probably told him like, hey, hold on to the football more. Like we don't have to take that chance down the field when we have Saquon behind you and we have this run game where we can like read option too. Like they have many different ways to attack you. And I think the QB draw like early in the game when Hurts was scoring, and then I actually give production staff some credit for going to break with "Hurt So Good" as the song. I thought that was funny, but yeah, I thought that play was like an encapsulation of like, okay, so you thought Saquon was gonna get this ball. Well, actually, it's a QB draw, and like here comes Jalen Hurts like running downhill, and they have an extra blocker, and yeah, I just think it's hard to stop them because of the way they play, and it's physical, and I mean, we'll get to Super Bowl picks like a lot later, but it's going to be a good matchup because it's two teams that kind of do different things, but at the end of the day, they're very fundamentally sound.
Again, I think Saquon Barkley should win MVP. I think he's having the greatest running back season that I've personally seen since I started watching football in 2000. I know that back in the 2000s, you had some of those great LaDainian Tomlinson, Priest Holmes, Sean Alexander type seasons. 2010s that kind of gave way to
Didn't
Adrian
LaDainian score like a
Peterson.
ton of touchdowns one year? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Adrian Peterson. And if Saquon Barkley had Joe Burrow at quarterback instead of Jalen Hurts, Barkley might have broken the touchdown record this
Oh,
year.
yeah.
It's just that Jalen Hurts,
It's crazy how many
gets
touchdowns
so
he's been
many
taken
of
away from
those
him.
of
Yeah.
those touchdowns. So if he had a different quarterback, I do think that Saquon Barkley could have had a chance at
Do you
that.
think the play should be banned? Like I've joked before that they should ban the play,
and I don't think it should be banned because of how poorly it worked for the Buffalo Bills in the other game, because they knew kind of where Josh Allen likes to tush push, how to stop it, and then if you don't have the proper push, because it felt like the Bills forgot all about the push part of the tush push. And that's something that the Eagles have just completely mastered and figured out. They simplify the offense for Jalen Hurts.
And timing too. Yeah, timing of when to push and all that stuff.
I understand why people kind of hate on Hurts a little bit, because it feels like a lot of this offense is very first read. But with Saquon Barkley, the threat of Saquon Barkley, they didn't have that with DeAndre Swift last year or with Miles Sanders the year before. Those were like standard starting running backs, if not a little below average starting running backs, where Saquon Barkley is having the best running back season of the last decade, as far as I'm concerned. You can really be more of a one-read offense with options like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert, because you can just say, hey, A.J. Brown, I'm going to throw you this ball 30 yards down the field on your back, on your shoulder. Just look there, and it'll be there. And Jalen Hurts puts the ball exactly where it needs to go, but it just doesn't require very much of him as far as actually reading the defense. But when you have an offensive line like they have, the running back that they have, the accuracy that Jalen Hurts can throw with, as well as the receivers and playmakers that they have on that offense, you can kind of get away with dumbing things down a little bit. Now, we'll talk next week as far as how that'll work against the Steve Spagnuolo defense, because
I don't know if it does.
We'll talk more about Steve Spagnuolo here later, but I know that the Eagles defense against Washington, now Jaden Daniels was able to pick out a good chunk of yards, but I mean, this is just a defense that has so many dudes on it. Zach Bond's been getting a lot of talk this season.
Gosh, he's been so
how
good.
He went from like a practice squad guy to an all-pro level linebacker. Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, who's been an incredible, almost like, hey, we need Fletcher Cox. What he did for for 8 years of his career, can you do that for 8 years too? Oh, cool, you can. All right, cool. Jordan Davis, who is just so athletic for his size and can be a run stuffer, but a pretty athletic pass rusher. I'll tell you this, if you haven't heard it already, there's going to be a contract given out this offseason that if you are not a ball watcher, you're going to go, that's dumb as hell. Well, let me tell you, Milton Williams is going to get paid by somebody because that guy has been behind the Fletcher Coxes. He's been behind I think they had Ndamukong Suh at one point. He's been behind Jordan Davis. He's been behind Jalen Carter. But when they bring him in and they play him all over the defensive line, he has so much power and an extreme amount of speed for the size that he is and where they play him, that he is a mismatch for both guards and tackles. He's going to get some money from somebody, and they're going to get a steal because there's going to be a fan base with, and I don't want to say this as an insult,
Like, how
but
do
it
we
just
get the
is what it is.
backup defensive
More
tackle?
more casual fans. Oh no, he's going to be a starter. He is going to be a starter.
No, but that's what people are gonna say. They're gonna be like,
Yes,
"Oh,
they're
this
going to
backup
say
defensive
we
lineman
got
from
we
the
got a
Eagles."
backup defensive lineman. Like, no, this guy can flat out play.
Right.
Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, just
Yeah.
fantastic uses of
I mean,
their picks this year, and they add, the secondary was the thing that really broke them down last year. It was like, all right, Darius Slade, James Bradbury, we've got names, but they're getting older, and so they've really been able to take Darius Slay and reduce his number of snaps, which has increased the effectiveness of his snaps. And Reed Blankenship, he's also an extremely high motor, big play making safety for the Eagles. They just have guys.
yeah, you're naming off all these guys, and they're all ball hawks. They're all like, let's go force a turnover, let's go make a tackle, let's rally to the ball. Like, that's like almost like in their DNA to like go make plays like that. Like, they're those type of players, and I think the Eagles are just full of guys on the defensive end that like rally to the ball, make tackles, force turnovers. Like, that's the biggest thing about them is they just rally to football and tackle well. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like, when you have a people mover in the front with like Jalen Carter's, and then when they bring in Milton, I mean, when guys can move offensive linemen like that, it causes issues on the front end of an offense, and it just causes issues throughout because it throws off the timing of a play. I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's the run game or the pass game. If you're able to throw off the timing of a play, you have an advantage, and then
I
the
don't know
Eagles
if
take
you
advantage
noticed
of it
this.
in the
I
back
don't know
end.
if you noticed this, but
Yeah,
there
yeah.
was one play where Nolan Smith got a sack, and he lined up wider than Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
He was lined up like
He lines up wide sometimes,
he
like wide.
wider than I think I've ever seen an edge rusher line up.
Yeah.
And the tackle just could not get his hips around, and
Well,
Nolan Smith
yeah.
went right by him.
Well, no, but if you think about it, like the mechanics of that is like you're playing in Philadelphia, it's loud, you can't hear the snap, so you're having to go by like silent count. So like you might have like your hand on like the guard, and like when the guard moves, like you move, so you're just like a tick late. So if Nolan Smith is able to use his speed from that wide, the angle he creates to get to the quarterback is just you can't match it unless you do something crazy outside of like normal tackle play. And like that's why they do stuff like that. We can get into this with like Buffalo and like
I was gonna say
Spagnuolo,
let's make
but they
that
do the exact
transition.
same thing. Like they make guys in they put guys in uncomfortable spots is what I was gonna say. But yeah, go ahead.
AFC Championship game. Everyone was looking forward to round 4 of Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and
Yeah,
it went the exact same way
not
that
good.
every
Can't
postseason
break the
meeting
curse.
between Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. They lost 4 Super Bowls, and one can say they lost another 4 Super Bowls because they lost 4 straight to Patrick Mahomes. 32-29, the
There might be
final from
a 30 for
Arrowhead.
30 about this at some point. There really might be.
Quite possibly, and I don't think you can necessarily blame Josh Allen. He played very well. I do think Mahomes played better, but we'll get into that. We'll start again. We'll start with the losers in this game because I think that we definitely want to spend a little bit more time with the winners. Buffalo. There's been some conversation about firing McDermott. I think that's nonsense, stupid. Don't do it.
Yeah, I think it's
That-
stupid.
that's a non-starter for us.
I don't think there's anybody that deserves to be fired. It just comes down to the fact that they were just outplayed by Mahomes again. It was a close game. I mean, even looking at the stats, I mean, they were.
I mean, you could argue they outplayed the Chiefs at most points in the game.
I mean,
I would not argue that.
Bills had a 6 yards more total than the Chiefs. I mean, you're pretty much neck and neck at that point.
I think
And
that the Bills this offseason, one thing that they've been bad with, I'm not going to say they've been okay. I'm not going to beat around the bush and try to make people happy. They've been bad at this. And that is, hey, let's get Josh Allen some playmakers. You know, Stephon Diggs is gone, or Stephon Diggs is about to leave last year. Let's get Josh Allen some playmakers. Let's take a look at what they did, okay? Amari Cooper. I don't know if this guy is just toast or if they're using him incorrectly, and I feel like it might be a little bit of a mixture of the two, but he has not been effective since he's gotten to Buffalo. He just hasn't. Dalton Kincaid, and this is before the crucial drop on 4th down where Josh Allen was getting corner blitzed on 4th and 5.
We can
had
talk
no
about that
time
later.
to throw,
Yeah.
and Josh Allen threw a fucking incredible ball. I have no idea how he was able to locate Dalton Kincaid, get him that ball, and then what did Dalton Kincaid do? He pissed down his leg. They spent the 25th overall pick on this guy in 2023, and he is 110th in receiving yards for the 2024 season. He did not have a single game of over 60 receiving yards in the 2024 season, and the Bills have been desperate for someone to step up. They traded out of the first round in 2024 to select Keon Coleman. What did Keon Coleman do? He had one catch for 12 yards, and they threw a really bad 3rd down fade route to him against Trent McDuffie.
I guess that's what you're going to do with Keon Coleman, right? I guess that's like his skill set, but still.
I get that, but yeah, the timing of that was really bad. Keon Coleman had a combined 3 catches for 22 yards this postseason on 8 targets. So Keon Coleman was not effective for this Bills.
One hit was Shakir, right?
No, the one hit was your boy Matt Collins.
Oh well,
don't forget about
Matt
your
Collins
guy.
Is the hit.
Matt Collins.
Matt Collins is a special teams guy who stretches the field vertically and makes catches. But is he really like? I mean,
he's a good give you 10, 15 routes a game, maybe, and he'll make some plays during the year. I think Matt Collins definitely has a place on the NFL roster. He should not be your leading receiver in the AFC Championship game.
No,
that's
I guess
not.
That was my whole point. Was like I don't know. Mitchell, I will say this: I don't think the Chiefs totally outplayed them because look, Buffalo was in this game. Like they very much and they squandered opportunities. Like I don't want to get too.
Yes,
deep
they
into
did.
it,
both of these teams had fumbles.
Yeah, well, not even that, Mitchell. The opening 3 possessions for Buffalo were horrendous. Like it was.
Josh Allen looked like he was a little rattled.
You know, it's something that I've noticed with the Bills. I don't know why, but they always kind of start sloppy.
Yeah.
And usually by this end of the second, start of the third, that's when they really start coming in hard.
I mean, Allen was missing throws, Tommy, missing throws. It was bad.
He was throwing. There was on the first drive, I think that he threw one pass that should have been intercepted, and then another pass.
First pass of the game. For him should have been
and then his second pass should have been intercepted by 2 different people.
Right. Yeah. Number 6 on the Chiefs. I forget who number 6 is.
I think it's Brian Cook.
Yeah, Brian Cook got his hands on the ball twice in the opening drive and dropped both of them. And I was like, this is not good.
I think Buffalo did get kind of lucky in this game. The fact that I think it could have been a much worse score had those bad plays actually came to fruition.
But then they were in the game. They played better and they were winning.
Had the Chiefs been able to run on designed runs, which some people say, well, they had 135 yards rushing. They had under 4 yards a carry. Kareem Hunt had under 4 yards a carry. And on the most successful runs, as far as I'm concerned, were Mahomes' scrambles.
Yeah, well, we know this.
Especially early in the game.
Yep.
In the playoffs, Mahomes, he kind of doesn't do this in the regular season. And then, playoff time, he's like, oh, I can take off my legs. I can, do some things there.
Recommend him not take off his legs.
No, take off with his legs.
Okay, I was
listening. Yes,
Mr. Potato Head over here.
He can take off his legs, yes. I will say, okay, I want to get into this because...
Get into it.
Why would you not give James Cook the ball the last 10 plays of the game?
I think James Cook might have been hurt. He looked like he was hurt, but the Bills...
I hope that was why, because they stopped giving him the ball.
That's why I think maybe Eagles fans should be a little bit here's the game plan. This is how we do it, because James Cook was terrorizing the Chiefs on the ground.
I will say this,
and he got only 13 carries.
I don't want to get too into it, but James Cook is very much like a running back that presses the hole and then immediately wants to bounce it outside. And man, did he bounce it outside a lot and ran for a ton of yards. So maybe that's the Saquon Barkley method is like you press the hole on inside zone and then bounce it the outside and run for 50 yards. Cause yeah, I mean James Cook was very effective. Mitchell, I think I counted like 5 or 6 times watching the All 22. They ran mesh, and I'm like, mesh isn't like a great concept unless you're getting man. They got zone like 3 times the 6 times they ran mesh. So half the time they got zone. One time it like was successful on a third down, but then they're running like mesh rail and they're like running James Cook out on like a rail or like a wheel route and trying to like hit him.
I
And
did
it's
notice
like,
that wheel
why
route.
are we like running mesh like
And
rail?
they never really had that.
Yeah,
I could tell that
they
they
never
wanted to
hit.
hit that, and
They
they
never hit
never
it.
had it.
And so I didn't love the play calling. Like I didn't like all of that stuff. And that's like granular stuff. At the end of the day, Josh Allen played well enough to win the game. But you left opportunities on the board to kind of put your stamp on the game, and you let the Chiefs like kind of grab hold of the game, and they really didn't give it back until late in
And
the game.
also just silly little decisions, in my opinion, when they went for those 2-point conversions and
Yep.
lost. I think it was what, 2 or 3 of them.
This is
Yeah.
where I say that Josh Allen played well enough to win a regular season game. I don't know if he played well enough to win
Mhm.
a postseason game at Kansas City against Patrick Mahomes. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Josh Allen running the football was really not as effective as we were used to seeing, especially in short yardage situations. You can argue the stuff about the officiating. I don't think that one fourth down had a conclusive view one way or the other just because of the ball. I think that you can look at it and take, he got it, he didn't get it, whatever. I think that he got it personally.
Yeah, I do too. I totally understand running like a tush push QB sneak with like a 6'6" QB. I totally get it. But also, like, could you not just line up and run like QB smash? Just like give Allen some space to like get
They
some
definitely
momentum
need
and
to
like
work on
run.
having a little bit more variety in the red zone, because they
Yeah,
always do the same play, and it's very predictable. And if you have a good defense like the Chiefs do and like the Eagles
right.
do, they're gonna stop it every time,
I
and
mean,
that's
we
what
make
happens.
fun of the Colts, but Anthony Richardson is a weapon because of the way they run him at QB. And I
I'll
think
say
they
two
should be doing
things.
that with Josh Allen, to be honest. Yeah.
I'll say
Go
two
ahead.
things about the Josh Allen running thing. One, I don't think anyone's doing it worse right now than Tony Romo, if I'm going to be completely honest. I
Well,
think this guy is just lost the sauce. However,
yeah.
he had one shining moment in the Bills game. One shining moment. And that is he said, yeah, no, they like to run this up left guard a lot.
Mhm.
And I think that if I know that, Steve Spagnuolo knows that. So I think they're going to come prepared for
Yep.
that. And I'll be damned if not every single time they ran this play, they ran it up left guard and they were stuck. And
Yeah, I think the one time it was
they
successful
never
was in the
adjusted.
first
No.
quarter, right? They were successful one time in the first quarter, and the rest of
I
it they
mean,
weren't
yeah, but
successful
not
at all.
never for a touchdown
Right. Yeah.
and never late in the game when they
Right.
really needed it.
When you need
And
it, it's almost like the
as a
Chiefs will
result,
give you it in the first quarter and then be like, "All right, now we can adjust." Like we know that's what they're doing. Like they're going over
Yeah.
left
and that
guard.
kind of feels like what the Chiefs have done. And I think I tweeted out the other day that I thought that the Chiefs were the most boring dynasty of my
I
lifetime.
thought it was funny. I thought it was hilarious.
And I'll tell you why they're the and our good friend Greg Kolarko said he had a picture of the Spurs. It was like these guys say hi as he said something along those lines as far as like, no, this is the most boring dynasty. And I'll tell you why I think these two teams are so very comparable. It's because the Chiefs, the Spurs, and some of LeBron's Heatles teams and some of his Cavs teams in his second stint with the Cavs, especially once like Kyrie and them were gone, but really more with the Heatles. They kind of treated the regular season like practice. And I've never seen that be done in the NFL. I've seen the Patriots treat September like, hey, we lost. Hey, we're the Patriots. We lost
The
coaches.
Bengals do that.
We-
yeah.
We what? Oh,
I was
the
gonna say
Bengals
the
just
Bengals
don't play.
tweet
They just don't
September.
play well. But the Patriots treat September, or at least they did, like we lost coaches. We may have lost an offensive lineman. We've got some new guys in the secondary. We got a defensive lineman starting that's new. We got a new linebacker. We lost a bunch of guys. We got a new receiver. And
Let's try some
September is kind
things
of
in September. Yeah.
September is the let's get everyone on the same page so that once the big games are rolling and the weather gets colder, we're all good.
We're locked in. Yeah.
The Chiefs treated
yeah.
the entire season that way, went 15-2, playing. Their defense was basically the thing that carried them. Now, Mahomes still played very well, but
he wasn't Mahomes this year.
He wasn't. He turns on a different energy, especially when it comes to his movement in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so frustrating to me because I'm used to regular season energy carrying into the postseason. How you play in the regular season translates to the postseason for the most part. You had those seasons where Peyton Manning went off, and then in the postseason he looks a little bit rough. But for the most part, you kind of what you see is what you get. And the Chiefs completely break all of those rules because, I mean, they didn't score 30 points or more in a single game in the regular season. They scored 32 against the Buffalo Bills in the biggest game of the year. Xavier Worthy played his best game of the year. By the way, great job, Buffalo. Stop trading with the damn Chiefs. You gave him Patrick Mahomes in that trade in 2017. You gave him Xavier Worthy to get Keon Coleman. Spoiler alert, Xavier Worthy, the better option of those two, at least so far.
We'll see how if we look at it from apples to apples, that's exactly what happened. I don't know if that's the exact comparison, but yeah, I get your point with the trades. I will say this, Mitchell. This is kind of my whole point the entire season was the Chiefs felt like they were going to do this the whole year. Just plot their time, play well enough to win games, but not really show anything.
I've ever seen a team do that before. And in the NFL,
turn it on.
It kind of pisses me off a little bit because in the NBA, I'm so used to all right, I know that when we get to the playoffs, 5 of the people that are getting 10 or so minutes a game are never going to play. The rotation gets smaller.
The rotation's going to be 7 guys.
The style of play is different. People actually give a fuck about defense, and so that's why I don't get as invested in the. I know that the two styles of play are going to be drastically different, and in the NFL, every game means so much that you can't afford to do that. Apparently, unless you're the damn Kansas City Chiefs and you can just go on lollygagging through the NFL season, win 15 games, and then in the postseason play a completely different style of football.
I'm with you. That's the ridiculous part of it is they not that they I guess lollygag just go where I don't know they
treated it like practice and a good practice, a well-run practice. Full practice.
I will say some of the stuff they do offensively isn't complicated in the regular season, and then they get to the postseason and it's all right, let's draw up some plays for Xavier Worthy. Make some plays. Let's draw up some plays for Travis Kelce.
One of the other reasons why I call them more boring is because you guys remember 2018 to 2021 when Tyreek Hill was there and Patrick Mahomes was just throwing 60-yard bombs down the field and Tyreek Hill would run underneath it, and it's that's just these Chiefs are so fun to watch, and they were almost lovable because they were so fun to watch. And then it's Patrick Mahomes, they're all right, we're going to take off the training wheels, Patrick. You actually have to learn how to read defenses now. We're going to take Tyreek, we're going to trade him away because we desperately need help on defense. All right? So you're going to learn how to read defenses. And Patrick Mahomes became excellent at reading defenses and not just relying on, hey, I have superior talent, my teammates have superior talent, and we're going to get it done that way.
Yeah.
And with that defense and that style of play, it's very reminiscent to the same stuff that Tom Brady was doing, except I think he's doing a little bit more dinking and dunking. Hey, let me take 7-8 yards at a time than Brady was.
It's free real estate, Mitchell. If they're giving it to you, take it. If it's there,
and it's always there.
Check down. I don't know. I will say this, Mitchell. Calling something a boring dynasty sounds like an oxymoron because it just doesn't. It doesn't sound right. The ultimate part of playing a sport, and like a team sport especially, is winning championships, winning games. And so to say that that's like quote unquote boring
Oh, I bet their
is
fans are
like,
having a lot of fun. I'm not a fan of the Chiefs.
yeah, that's fair.
Like, I'm actually now a certified hater because
Yeah.
once you become a dynasty, that means 3, by the way. I know it's like, well, die means 2. Well, die means shut the hell up. It means 3. You know? A dynasty is
No.
3. Do you consider the Eli Manning Giants a dynasty? No, you don't. Shut the hell up. It's
No.
3.
Mitchell, I do like the
Sorry.
Spurs to Chiefs like comparison, because the Spurs are very much like, let's pass the ball around, share the basketball, like
Their
no
star
flashy
player was literally
dunkings.
nicknamed the Big
The
Fundamental.
big fundamental, yeah, yeah.
That's kind of what the Chiefs are right now.
I mean, literally, Tim Duncan's entire career was, let me catch the ball 10 feet from the basket with my back to the basket, and hook shot,
Yeah.
postman.
Yeah.
His entire career.
It's
And
not the most exciting to watch, but you know what? It's hella effective, and it wins
it's hella
championships.
effective. And I think that's the Chiefs. That's the Chiefs. It's hella effective. It's just like, yeah, let's hammer the fundamentals and just be better than teams down the stretch. And Mitchell, you said something a couple of weeks ago. When you start playing the Chiefs late in playoff time and it gets like gritty, like that's when teams like tighten up, they clinch a little bit, and they make mistakes. And
You make
that's
the mistakes that you don't make at any other point because you know that when you're playing this team, first of all, especially the Bills, right? Because the Bills, this has been their damn kryptonite.
yeah.
Ever since they've been a team that makes the playoffs regularly, this has been their kryptonite. This team right here, more often than not, this stadium, this location is where their dreams come to die. So you go in with that weight and expectations every single time, and it feels like the Chiefs just play their game. And the Bills, it feels like every single play has this weight, and it feels like they're almost playing with a backpack on. Not in that way, like this is how Draymond Green shoots the basketball, but just like you have an extra weight that the other team doesn't have. You're playing with, with lead filled shoes or something. It's just there's a weight that the Chiefs don't have.
I'm curious if it was almost just the pressure of just needing that win and breaking the curse, because I mean they had a whole rally in the city Friday morning, outside of City Hall. Basically, just the entire city was there, like rooting them on and stuff. And it's just the Bills are known for just having that curse of just losing to the Chiefs over and over and over in the playoffs. So I'm sure they all went into that game just knowing like we need to win this. If we don't, we're fucked.
Yeah. I mean, I think Ryan Russillo might have mentioned this. Like, I don't think this was like a legacy like destroyer for Josh Allen. I don't think it really did anything to like hurt his legacy, but it does suck to think, man, this guy might be like the most talented quarterback or one of the most talented quarterbacks we've ever seen, and he can't beat these guys. Like he can't get over the hump. Like he can't climb the mountain. Yeah.
I know every quarterback gets upset after losing a game like this, but like just watching his post game press
I mean,
conference,
he's
he
mad.
just looks so defeated, like just an empty shell of a man. I'm like, this poor guy.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, I mean, maybe if he wins a Super Bowl at some point, like we'll have those conversations. But it almost
There's
feels
always
like
next year.
I mean, you say that, but I feel like we're in a Brady Manning scenario where I I don't even know if we can compare it to that, because I just don't see Patrick Mahomes losing in the playoffs like this. Like if you're betting against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the playoffs, I mean you're probably losing money. Like you definitely are. Like there's just I don't know. I wouldn't bet against them. That's why I picked the Chiefs and the Eagles at the beginning of the playoffs. That's why I picked the Chiefs at the beginning of the year. I'm just not gonna bet against those guys. I'm sorry. They're just too good. They're too good.
Well, that's what we call in the business foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Because next week we are going to talk about that Super Bowl. Super Bowl, I want to say 59. Yeah, it's 59.
Yep, 59.
Let's call it that. Even if
Man,
it's
we're
not
so close to
59
60.
here. We're so close to 60. Hopefully that's the one that the Jets bring it home. Actually, that won't happen. I'm just going to die. But we're going to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to give our predictions. We're going to talk about what we think is going to happen and all that fun stuff.
Make some
so,
prop bets.
something like that. Yeah, we'll bet on the national anthem. We'll talk about Kendrick Lamar's halftime show. All that great, exciting information. I'm sure Drake will have a fun night. So, guys, talk to you next week. Bye-bye.